This is My Current Position, Episode 2 on taxation. So what to me is an ideal taxation system? I'm reasonably libertarian, but I'm absolutely not an anarchist, so I think we need some taxation to run a minimal government. Currently the Australian government takes in around 28% of GDP as taxes, and I think that could drop to below 10% if I was supreme dictator. Currently I think a taxation system primarily land value tax based, paid in gold or gold equivalent that the government of the day finds acceptable would be the most ideal system. If an owner disputes the land value, the government can either purchase the land at 150% of assessed value or lower the value. Obviously this would mean there are very high land taxes. For example, if I was to pay the same amount of tax overall, my land tax would go from about $1,500 that I pay now to around $20,000. However, the value of the land should adjust to accommodate this in the free market, and of course without paying other taxes it should not affect the average person's overall tax burden. The percentage of land value taxed varies based on budgetary requirements for the government to make it through the year. I don't believe government should be able to deficit spend because they don't have a lifespan, so to speak, and as a result it benefits older people and hurts younger people that will at some point have to pay it back. And the land taxes could possibly be supplemented with pollution taxes. So the advantage of this system is that it would remove all burden for business owners having to track expenses and income perfectly to report to the tax authority. It would also remove the burden from individuals having to keep track of exemptions and fill out tax returns. Because records would not need to be kept in any particular currency to report to the government officials, it would allow a free marketplace of currencies, and the likes of Bitcoin, etc. could be deregulated. Failure to pay tax would be easy to track and enforce. Basically treat the land tax as the year's rent. If you don't pay it, you're forced to sell the property to someone who can. And we could possibly allow someone to fall behind on their rent tax, but I'm really not sure if that's a good idea. I'm just throwing it out there. Like maybe 6 months or a year maybe. It would more or less, or maybe completely, eliminate tax evasion because you can't exactly hide your land in a Swiss bank account. And no central bank would be required, or at least the government and the people wouldn't have to have anything to do with one if they didn't want to. The disadvantages are obviously high land taxes. There would be absolutely no illusion that you own your land. You're definitely renting it off the government. And everyone needs to live and sleep somewhere, and landowners would obviously need to pass on the high taxes through rent. This could create a situation where it is difficult to reduce the tax burden to low income earners to a level that is low enough that they are comfortable, whereas in a conventional tax system you simply reduce the income tax at low levels of income, or you don't put sales tax on essential items. So my position has changed on what sort of taxation system we should have in the past 10 years or so. I used to support other basically income and GST taxes, but I didn't support a land tax at all. The idea being that one could stay on their own property and not pay any taxes if they were self-sufficient. But however, that person will still benefit from defence services. In reality, no one in any country that I know of really owns their land, because if any citizen of the country stops paying land tax or equivalent, and here in Australia we call it rates, the government will soon seize the land. This would mean the government would need to know about your personal affairs to a degree as well to have a regular taxation system to be able to enforce the income taxes, etc. And as a result, that would reduce privacy. So the current taxation methods that I strongly oppose, the first one is stamp duty on housing, and that reduces mobility by adding costs to buying and selling houses, preventing people being able to move closer to their jobs if they change jobs and the like. And I obviously also strongly oppose stamp duty on vehicles for basically the same reason. Payroll tax. Businesses are already paying taxes on their profits, and employees are already paying taxes on the income. In my opinion, this tax is completely unnecessary and discourages businesses from expanding. Customs duties. I basically believe in free trade, so I think all the custom duties on alcohol and cigarettes, etc., need to go. Death taxes, fortunately, don't exist in Australia at the moment, but where they do exist, I really don't support them. I think that if you work hard and save hard, you should be able to save on the benefits that you earn to your children. Current taxation types that I oppose, so there's sin taxes. The alleged increase in strain of the health or police systems could be handled in other ways, for example, making smokers pay for the medical costs related to smoking. I don't think the government should be manipulating the market with sin taxes, and these create a black market as well. Government may become reliable on the revenue, then encourage the behaviour, and it allegedly happens in Australia with gambling, although I think that's mostly conspiracy theory. Medicare levy, fire services levy, and all those other types of levies really should just come out of regular taxes. And the current methods of taxation that we have that I'm more or less okay with in today's government are income tax. Australia has a decent tax-free threshold now. It's around 18,000 Australian dollars that I do support, and I think it should be a flat rate after that. GST or sales tax. That gets the revenue off the visiting Kiwis and other tourists, so what could be bad about that? Rates and land tax, as stated earlier, that's basically what I think we should be primarily taxed with. Capital gains tax, because without capital gains tax, people would just bypass all the other taxes, well, except for land tax, which they wouldn't be able to bypass. Fuel excise, to me, that's more or less a pollution tax, and for me, I'm okay with pollution taxes.